Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Wait Till Monday podcast. I'm your host, Kirsten Quigley, and today I have Jeremiah Paprocki with me, and I'll, like always, introduce how we know each other, introduce him a little bit, and then we'll get into his story and who he is.
Hi, Mom.
So, Jeremiah, again, thank you for being here with me and hopping on this episode. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Of course. So, if you don't know Jeremiah, so I actually met him through Adam, who is my boyfriend, if you're listening and you didn't know that. So, he cheered for the Chicago Bulls, and Jeremiah is actually a stage manager for the Chicago Bulls, and he is also the official announcer, the voice of Wrigley Field for the Chicago Cubs. And so, we were at a Cubs game one day, me, Adam, and a few other friends from the Incredibles. And Adam was texting him like, "Hey, we're at the game," and Jeremiah was like, "Oh, like that's awesome!" Like, took us up to the booth, showed us around, and I thought that was so fun and so amazing. And so I was like, I have to get him on an episode. This is an absolutely insane, cool job to have. I need to learn more about it and how he got here. So, Jeremiah, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself a little more.
Yeah, so you're right. I am Jeremiah Paprocki, the voice of Wrigley Field for the Chicago Cubs. This is now my fourth season behind the mic at Wrigley Field. I'm a lifelong Cubs fan, so this is just a truly a dream job to have. I spent many years growing up, going to games, being in the bleachers, all over the ballpark. Never would have thought that I would have got lucky enough to land the voice of Wrigley job. So, very lucky, very fortunate. Definitely worked my way up since high school and college to get to this level. And like I said, I'm very lucky.
Absolutely. And yeah, so definitely looking back on your time, so you were saying you worked your way up. Let's go ahead and go all the way back to, well, actually, you said you were a kid growing up coming to the Cubs game. Did you ever hear the announcer and think, that's amazing, I would love to do that? Or you just love the whole idea of baseball? Did you play baseball? How does that play into it?
Yeah, so it kind of started off of hearing the other voices. So, uh, games that I would go to at Wrigley Field, I'd have this imaginary mindset where I'm like, I'm the person in the booth, so I'm trying to like to be the one that's announcing the game. So,
Oh, I
I'm
love that.
trying to announce before the actual guys doing it. The real passion for it started actually with the Chicago Bulls, though. So.
Okay.
I remember after my first couple of Bulls games that I went to, I don't remember how old I was exactly, but I was probably around 8, 9 years old when I first went to a Bulls game. And at the time they had the running of the Bulls intro video.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
an animated version of the Bulls and they run through the city. And then they pan out to the visiting team bus and then the Bulls will take full steam ahead, and then they'd crash into the bus, and then the serious Alan Parsons, the very famous would start playing, and
Uh-huh.
the PA announcer at the time for the Bulls, Tommy Edwards, will belt out the no, and I was so infatuated by that whole sequence. And as a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I would find myself just uncontrollably doing the and now. And so I must have annoyed so many people in that I would do it at school, at all times of day, in class, at the lunchroom, at recess, at
Yeah.
home. So little did I know I was kind of working and shaping my voice up to what it was or what it is now at that time. So just kind of having the passion for it without realizing I had the passion for it. Uh,
Yeah.
so I didn't really find out that that was a person behind the mic until high school. So around freshman year. is when, you get into high school, they want you to start thinking about careers in college and all that stuff. So, uh, I originally wanted to be an airline pilot, so completely
Okay.
different field. Me and my mom travel a lot, especially as a kid, so I was always at an airport, always on a plane.
Gotcha.
And it was kind of one of those things in terms of career where I was like, oh, I'd be an airline pilot. Seems something that is cool. I already like flying, wouldn't mind being behind the controls. So
Yeah.
why not? So that's actually what I wanted to be originally.
Okay.
Um, and then in high school, my freshman year, started looking at things, obviously looked at aviation. I was tall. I am tall. I'm six
Yeah.
five. So, every young boy's dream is to get into the NBA somehow.
Mhm.
I wanted to play in the NBA. And then the announcer thing kind of just was like, oh, I'll look into it, see how it goes. Then I found out that people behind the mic are the ones that are actually saying things, and that was cool. That's when I learned about Tommy Edwards and then Ray Clay, who used to be the Bulls announcer in the 90s, Andrew Billison, who was doing the Cubs games at the time, the guy before me. So learning about those people and how they got the position and all that good stuff. Uh, Ironically, my high school had a system where the senior class president would announce the homeroom announcements.
Okay.
I thought that was cool every
Yeah.
time I did it, but because it was basically in lines of what I was trying to do in terms of broadcasting, announcing, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And but the thing was, I wasn't senior class president. I was just a freshman. So
Right. Yeah. So you still had ways to go.
yeah, long, long way to go. So I was like, ah, well, I'll just wait till senior year, and I have to pray that I actually get elected. And then
Mhm.
it'll take serious convincing to do. Uh, and I don't have like, our school, I went to CICS Northtown Academy for high school on the north side of Chicago. It's not a big school. It's about 1,000-ish total. So
Okay.
about 200 or over 200 per level. So 200 freshmen, 200 sophomore, so on, so on. So not a big school, but finding ways to stand out and make your way into the school can be easy if you make it. So my sophomore year is actually when my broadcasting started to kind of take off, or at least the
Okay.
opportunities. So my a little bit into my sophomore year. I remember it was October for sure. We just had our Halloween assembly.
Okay.
Um, and the senior class president at the time was kind of a jokester, kind of a
Okay.
com- he liked to start off every announcement with a joke. And
Okay.
our principal at the time was kind of a hefty fellow.
Mhm.
Uh, and although he kind of walked himself into this joke, he was the Marshmallow Puff Man from Ghostbusters.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I don't know if you know Ghostbusters, the
I
original
do, yeah.
Ghostbusters, the big puff guy. That's who he dressed up as, and
Okay.
our character is already big, and so you could infer that the joke didn't really sit well with the.
Yeah.
So he lost his privileges and got cut. And so I found out because a friend of mine from my homeroom got pulled into it by accident. And I was
Oh,
like, hey,
wow.
like, how'd you get into it? Like, what happened to the other guy? I got the whole tea, all the story, the scoop.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was like, yeah, they just pulled me in. I was by the office at the time. Like, I'm sure you can go to the office and ask. I'm sure they're looking for someone now. And so that's exactly what I did. I seized the opportunity.
Wow.
I went to the office and I was like, hey, I heard what happened to so and so. I would like to, give it a try. Broadcasting is something that's on my radar. This would be that perfect opportunity. And they said, sure, why not? we need a spot to fill. So originally it was supposed to be a tryout phase. So I came the next day. They gave me the script with the announcements on it, and then the office, it's in the layout where like you walk in, you have the main reception with the two office attendants, and there's
Hmm.
a closet next to them that's kind of like the sound room slash.
Okay.
So it's a whole bunch of like paper stacked, but there's the microphones in there, and it's a quiet place to talk. And then all the offices are to the left. So they got me situated in the little room there, and they're like, "Here's the mic. This is how you turn it on and off. You talk into the box, all that stuff." They're like, "The bell is your cue. Once the bell goes, you can go, and then once you're done, sign off, and you're done." So
Yeah.
I was I was as nervous as I could ever be. This is my first time talking into a microphone, into a live setting. The only good thing is I was in a closet, so no one can see me. I just know people will,
Right.
but there's no eyes on me. So the nerves in that sense kind of was at ease a little bit, but I was still nervous for sure.
Yeah,
The
for
bell
sure.
rang. Yeah, the bell rang, and then I took a deep breath and was like, all right, let's do it. So I paced through as best as I could with the announcements, and I felt good about it when I was done. And when I was done, I opened the door and I like slowly walk out, and there's the two office attendants, the principal and vice principal. They're all looking at me, and
Yeah.
was that you? And I was like, well, I'm the only one here, so what's
Coming,
up?
yeah.
They're like, you can keep this to graduation.
Wow.
So they gave me the position right away. So all I had
Yeah.
to do after once right before homeroom start, just come to the office, pick up the script from someone, and then I do it. So that was
Yeah.
my uh first official announcing gig, is the
Yeah.
Northtown, as they called me. So I was known as the voice of the school. Started my sophomore year. And obviously I did keep it till graduation. So about a week before until I graduated, because then I helped phase in
The
the
next,
next to the school. So that
yeah.
was fun to be a part of. And then I took it upon myself to do our sports teams. So no one was calling our sports games as well. So I tried to do everything that I can. Only thing I couldn't do was boys varsity because I was on the team, so it was impossible.
Oh, like a
But
bias type of thing.
it
Oh,
was
like at the games. I'm thinking
at
like
the
if you were
game.
talking
Yeah,
about the, never mind, that totally makes sense.
yeah,
Obviously, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I obviously can't run up the court, dribble,
And
and
right.
so, but I did boys JV, I did girls varsity and JV, and then when it was warm out, I would go out and do softball. So I would tack on those responsibilities, which was fun. My junior year of high school, it was the girls basketball home opener, and I remember that day was a significant day as well too, because that's when I kind of my networking kind of put me into more positions. So at halftime of the girls' varsity game, a referee came up to me and he was like, "Hey man, you got a really good voice. I feel like I'm at a Bulls game.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
I work for UIC Athletics, the UIC Flames. We got to bring you out to a game, try to get you on the mic over there." And so I thought that was super cool that someone came up to me and heard my voice and was trying to help me out there. And we kept in touch. And he brought me over to UIC, and I got connected with people there. And by my junior year of high school, I was announcing Division I athletics for UIC. So
That's
that was
insane, actually.
really
Like
cool.
all of that to happen in a year
Yeah.
is like mind blowing. And it's so like obviously natural for you too. I feel like obviously you were like manifesting it yourself as a kid at these games. And then it's
Yeah.
like so full circle for the ref to say to you, you sound like a Bulls announcer.
Yeah, yeah, it's so crazy and to think of like how things line up is
Yeah.
crazy. And then I'm like at this point still I'm still in like a tough situation because this is junior year. So the big test year,
Yeah.
we had ACTs at the time, so our big
Hmm.
test was the ACT. And then that's gonna propel you into to college and stuff like that. But I also have to decide like, okay, do I want to stick down the aviation route or do I
Oh
want to
yeah.
figure out what this broadcasting could lead me to? And so uh, once I got the UIC gig, I was like, I should probably see the broadcasting route out and see where that goes. So, senior year came around, and obviously I was doing games for UIC, so it made it very easy to choose what school to apply for. And I
Yeah.
applied for, but obviously I was already at UIC doing what I wanted to, so I applied for UIC, and then I got it. So that helped out too. And so graduated high school and went into UIC already with like a year into it
Yeah, kind
already.
of already there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And now that I was a freshman and always on campus, I got to do all the sports. So volleyball, gymnastics, soccer, basketball, baseball, softball, you name it, I did it. So that was cool. So I got to try my hand in sports that I typically didn't do. Like I wasn't really brushed up on volleyball. Didn't know anything
Okay.
about gymnastics or swimming and diving. Sports that I didn't know, but I learned along the way. So that was very helpful. And I kind of rode that out for a few years. And in the process, a lot of trial and error and also kind of trying to seize opportunities that I hoped I would get.
Yeah.
At the time, I was at UIC, the Chicago Wolves, the hockey, minor league hockey team position
Hmm.
open. I applied, didn't get it.
Mm.
It's funny.
Their loss.
I was probably the most arrogant about that one because I was like, they're gonna see this 18-year-old kid with an amazing booming voice, and they're gonna be like, that's the guy we want.
Right.
Didn't happen, and I was very
No.
excited. So I was like, maybe not, maybe not. So, you keep moving. And so then about a couple years later, the Chicago Sky position opened up.
Mm.
And also I was like, I feel good about this. I love basketball. This is gonna be perfect. Again, got cut short. I was like,
Mm.
okay, kind of sucks.
Yeah, yeah, trust me. I've been through rejections. I get the pain.
Yeah, so you start to get into your head a little bit, and then you're
Hmm.
like, right, I'm sure more opportunities will come about. And then I've networked with people at UIC, and while I was doing the games, I picked up a position at Whitney Young High School to do their basketball games. So
Okay.
uh, which I still do to this day. So Whitney Young Dolphins in Chicago. I do their games. Very competitive school, good basketball program. So very fun to be a part of them. And, thanks to working for them, I've done some pretty cool high school classics, which ironically are hosted at UIC. So,
Oh
uh,
wow. What a
yeah, so
perfect
those
match.
exactly. So it's very cool. Then the pandemic hit, and that was a very tough
Mm.
time because literally my whole sports career was like, that's it. Nothing we can do. The world's
Yeah.
shut down, no one's going out to places, sports aren't going on. And so from about March 2020, from when it first happened to November 2020, I wasn't doing anything. I was
Oh,
stuck in
okay.
no work, nothing.
Hmm.
A tough time for me. I'm a extrovert. I like to be social. I like to be out with people, all that stuff. And then just the I was on a on a roll with how like I was working, like my pace, and that got cut. So I was like, I was lost in a sense. I didn't know what to do, and so when you get lost in your head, when you have a lot of time for yourself, it was very difficult. And so, after
Yeah.
a few months into the pandemic, I was like, oh man, did I make the right decision? Like,
Mm,
oh, like nothing's going on right now. Planes are still flying. Maybe I should have pursued aviation. And I'm not getting paid. Nothing's going on right now. It's tough.
yeah.
2020 was all
Was
go.
that the first time where you kind of thought back to maybe I should have done aviation? Or
Yes.
were yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely when I went back to that because like I said, planes were still going. Like even if there
Yeah.
were reduced capacity, people still had to travel. And so whether it was with masks and stuff, like, people still have to get from A to B. And so
Right.
that was something that was still going on. And so even if it was very limited, it was still going.
There's still
Sport
something, yeah.
wasn't going.
Yeah.
So so that was a tough time because I was just doing nothing. So I would definitely get in my head and I was like, oh man, did I make the right decision?
Oh, yeah.
And what made it worse to add on to that was 2020 was also difficult was because two PA positions also opened up at that time.
Uh-huh.
It couldn't have opened up at a more worse time in my opinion
Yeah.
because the Chicago Bears and the Chicago Bulls were looking for PA announcers, and it was tough because it was COVID and it was in the middle of the pandemic, so there was no like typical apply, put your hat in the ring type of thing. It
Mm.
kind of got reduced to a word of mouth situation,
Oh, okay.
and so unfortunately, that just kind of was like you know, who does someone know that we can, talk to and, word of mouth and the Bulls and Bears ended up going with the same person and, you know, I know the guy, Tim Sinclair, great guy. So, he definitely earned and deserved the positions, but it
For
was
sure,
definitely
yeah.
a moment for me because in a sense, it kind of seemed like at that point all the positions were gonna be kind of taken for a long time. So
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that added more to the doubt of my decision making. It was like, okay, well, no protein is probably gonna open up here in the city for a while. So I'm kind of screwed here. Like I might have to move to another city. I don't want to leave
Yeah.
Chicago. I love Chicago, but I've made this decision already. So, now might have to be open to leaving. Uh, I applied for the Marlins position a couple times
Oh,
too,
okay.
but never really heard anything from that. So maybe the distance kind of never really made anything there happen.
Yeah.
Uh, the Cubs job was probably the furthest on my mind, just because the guy at the time was a really young announcer. In a sense, like he got the job pretty young too. So Andrew Bellison, the former voice of Wrigley Field, got hired in 2011 at age 24.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
he was really only like 34 at the time. So
Yeah.
never, people, we keep these positions for as long as we can.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, obviously, with it being Wrigley Field too, you want to like hold on to that. So, uh,
Right.
I was like, well, he still has a 20, 30 years left still to go. So, never really thought much about into that one opening up. That kind of came out of nowhere in March 2021. So, getting into how I got the voice of Wrigley job. I remember that so vividly, even though it was a while now. But it was March 2021, early March. I
Mm-hmm.
was Sports had came back to no fans though, but
Yep.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a UIC volleyball game, and one of the sets had just ended. So I went on Twitter just to scroll, and I seen an announcement where he announced that he was stepping down from the position.
Wow.
I was in complete shock. I would never thought as early as this would he have stepped down, and so I was like, okay, this is real. This is real. This is happening. Like
I
now,
gotta
like
do
I
it.
got to keep an eye out for this job. Like
Yeah.
this is Wrigley Field. So uh I was like, all right, somehow I gotta make this the best interview process I've ever had. And so
Yeah.
um couple that's crazy because I was still in school. So a couple weeks later, I was on spring break in Miami and the
Mhm.
job opened up. So a friend of mine sent the link over and was like, "Hey man, the job opened up. Here you go." So I was like, "Oh, okay." I was about to go to the beach. I was like literally about to go, and so
Uh-huh.
I stopped everything, grabbed a random lineup off of Twitter, and was like, "All right, this will do." And I taped it a couple of times, but the first take was the best take, so I took that and sent it in. So I sent that in, and then maybe about a couple weeks later, I heard back, and they were like, "All right, we liked what we seen from the initial application. Uh, here's a couple more scripts. Can you record that? Send it back." The season had already started at this point, since it was a kind of a late announcement from the previous guy.
Yeah.
So the the guy that did it before him actually came back and was kind of like a fill-in guy
Oh,
for
okay.
April. Um, so then I sent in those scripts that they sent me and had to wait a little bit longer. I think it was
Mhm.
another couple weeks, and then I heard back from somebody, and they're like, "Can you hop on a call with us?" And so that's exactly what I did. We hopped on a Microsoft Teams call and we chatted it up. That was kind of a virtual interview. But I felt great with that. That was really good. Like the conversation was great. I felt like I put everything on the line in that and it worked. A week later they sent an email and they're like, we liked their conversation. We'd like to have you come out to the ballpark for a live audition.
Oh my gosh, it's like so nerve-wracking.
Yeah, so when I got that email, I knew that that was kind of like the last initial test. Like
Yeah, like
it
gotta
was
go hard.
it was a very similar pattern to how Andrew Bellison got the gig. So I knew that the live audition was the last phase, and
Okay.
so I was like, "Oh my God, I made it this to pretty much the end here. Like this is crazy."
Yeah.
So, like either way, whatever happens at this point, my voice will have gone out through Wrigley Field. So,
Yeah.
uh, very cool experience when that time came. Went through the front office and they walked me up to the press box. And then I met my boss for the first time without knowing it.
Without knowing it, yeah.
And then he walked me through the process, and it was a 30-minute audition, felt like 5 seconds. I kind of just locked in, and they gave me the script from that opening day, and we treated that as such, and we just walked through every element, and I was so focused on it, it just went by so quick.
Yeah.
So it was all a blur, but it was really fun. And so afterwards, just kind of had to wait again. You're like, all right,
Mhm.
well, I did it now. I just gotta, wait to hear back. And so about another week later, they're like, we'd like to hop on a call and maybe ask some more questions to help with our decision making. And that's where they were a little bit sneaky.
Mhm.
When I got on the call, I thought they were really going to ask some more questions, and
Right.
that was not the case. They had already made their decision.
Oh, so they were like playing it like,
Yeah, they got me there, and so they're like, we wanted to, you know, get on this call. We actually already made our decision. And they were playing into it. So they're like, "You're a young kid." I was 21 at the time, so you're a young kid. Any team, you got a lot of time ahead of you to grow your career, flourish. Any team would be lucky to have you. And then they spun in here and are like, but we here at the Chicago Cubs would be very lucky to have you, and
Ah!
we're gonna offer you the position as the next voice of Wrigley Field. And I don't know what happened. I kind of blacked out there.
Yeah, for a second, I'm
Heard it.
sure.
I heard it. My body was on autopilot. I said yes, but I was like freaking out inside. Um, it was so cool though. I was like, man, did they really just say that I got the job at Wrigley Field? Like, am I gonna be the next voice of Wrigley Field? Like, I
I know.
couldn't.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially too, like also just preparing to get asked more questions. And then also the way they're sort of briefing it with like complimenting you and talking about how young you are. Your mind's probably like, this could go either way. And then they offer it to you. Like, I think I black out too. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, it was such a crazy moment. And then like I like snapped back into it, and like they're
Hmm.
talking about the next steps and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is really
Here we
happening.
go. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so they were on the road at the time when they let me know, and they're like, well, when they come back, that's your first home game. So May
Wow.
17th, 2021, they made a public release the day of, and they're like announcing the new voice of Wrigley Field, Jeremiah Paprocki. And I had
Mm,
all my materials ready to go script wise, and it was a 640 game, limited capacity. It was about 50% ballpark or something like that, somewhere along the line, so not full. Um, and yeah, I walked in, and that was the start of everything. So they
yeah.
they played the Washington Nationals. It was a big game because former Cub John Lester and Kyle Schwarber came back on a different team this time, but first time back at Wrigley since. Uh,
Yeah.
the Cubs won at the end of the day, and that was game number one. So that was and they announced when I got hired the day of that I was the youngest PA announcer in MLB at age 21, and also the first African American PA announcer to hold the position for the Cubs. So those two check marks were kind of big the day of as well too. So very big moment for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Adam was telling me about that. He was like, "Here, I'm also pretty sure he's the youngest." So I was gonna ask you about that just to clarify. That's awesome.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
a huge accomplishment. Yeah, 21. That's super young. Especially, I mean, even working for UIC when you were a junior in high school is
Yeah, that
like
was a big deal
I feel like a
too.
huge honor to hold. So
Yeah, it seemed like I was hitting my strides very early, and obviously I think I made the right decision to stick through with the broadcasting. And it all worked out at the end. And I think in life nothing's gonna go perfect the whole way through, right? You're always gonna have some ups and downs. So
absolutely.
starting off in high school and getting UIC was kind of like the up, and then
Mhm.
a couple rocky bumps with the rejections, and then COVID was the down, and
Mhm.
Cubs is back up. So that's kind of just life and anything you choose to do, and so you kind of just have to push through those moments, I learned. So but yeah, that's how I got the position as the voice of Wrigley Field. So yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love that story, and I love just like how you were saying, nothing's a straight line, right? Nothing is an easy, simple path. You're gonna have your ups and your downs, and all in between. But like earlier when you were saying, everything like kind of crashed when COVID happened. So, and you were talking about sports specifically. I cheered at NC State, and so I was an athlete at the time, and same thing, like absolutely devastating to get that all ripped away from us at the time. So I can only imagine searching for a career at that time, especially in, this chosen path that you're so passionate about. like that must have been so difficult and extremely hard. So I can only imagine.
For sure.
So obviously that whole timeline, thank you for sharing all of that and laying it all out, and just your different obstacles that you went through and showing your dedication to your passion and your grace for yourself for sticking with it. I'm happy you did because I think you're amazing at the job. And when we were at the Cubs game, and it's so funny. So Adam was like, "That's Jeremiah. Like that is his voice," and he's telling everyone, and we're all like, "Really?" Like, and I haven't. Well, I did actually meet you at the time because at the one of the Bulls watch parties, you were there handing out the flyers for your talk show.
Oh, was I?
Yeah,
I don't think
I think
was
so, or
that
maybe
that had to
someone
have
might
been
have been.
someone else.
Okay, someone was doing it for you because we still
Someone
have
was
it.
doing it.
It's still like on a magnet on our calendar for your
Oh,
talk show.
nice.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so then Adam's like, no, Kier, like, and then he's referring to the little flyer, and he's like, that's the guy, that's the guy. So I'm like, okay, and we were with like Skylar, who else? Zoe, Marcus, like those other creds. So yeah, so he was like, let's go up and like see him. So I was like, okay, and then obviously there we were,
Yeah.
but I was like, this is so cool. Like, yeah,
So the thing behind the voice is like if you don't know, like it's probably kind of hard to believe that that's me talking. So this is my normal speaking voice. This is just how I talk. So, but I do have the ability to play with my voice a little bit. So I do have ways to kind of manipulate it into certain types of characters and voices, which is really fun.
yeah,
So. Wrigley Field is a historic ballpark, second oldest in Major League Baseball. The product at Wrigley is to, make you feel like you're at a classic old time ballpark. And
absolutely,
I feel like the voice should fit that part as well too. So I try to deliver a early 1900s ballpark announcer voice. And
yeah.
so listening to different radio announcers and stuff like that with a little flair of what the old guy have and try to give you that 1914 Wrigley Field vibe. So what that would sound like is leading off for the Cubs, second baseman number two, Nico Horner, is what you would kind of hear what
Like,
they would get
it's
back in
so
the
natural. I love
day.
it.
So that's how my decision making behind the voice and having the ability to do that all factored into my decision of why I deliver it as such.
So when you're speaking about, I have some questions now. I'm going to pick at your brain a little bit. We'll pop back into your story here and there for these different
For
times.
sure.
But so I know you said like obviously Wrigley is like a huge historic ballpark field, and it seems like you pull inspiration from like the 1900s, like you were saying. So is there a specific announcer or broadcaster that influences your style, or is it kind of like a mixture of you doing something you like?
Yeah, so I would say I touched on it a little bit. Like I said, kind of not a specific announcer in terms of the early days, like the 10s, 20s, early days of Wrigley Field, but the guy before me for sure, I felt like also set a similar style, which I definitely grabbed a lot from his style as well too, just because it worked, and I think that it didn't need any changing. So definitely wanted to honor some of the stuff that he implemented for the ballpark that I think very much fit, and so definitely kept some of Andrew Bellison's delivery and styles and being able to announce them in similar facets helped as well too. And then also I have a deeper type of style as well too. So also, having a commanding voice as well too. So being able to implement that command as well, which has this very similar essence to Wayne Mesmer and Paul Friedman, who are also former voices of Wrigley Field, that had that command essence behind the mic. So being able to mix those guys and somehow manipulate it into my style are guys that I definitely pulled from in terms of influence into my role here at Wrigley.
Awesome. I love that. And I love how it's sort of like stayed on the whole theme of the Cubs too. And I feel like growing up like you at the stadium, you've kind of like, you said you would not reenact, but you would try and get to the voice before the announcers even did. So
Yeah,
you've been building that up since even before you knew this was your future, you
for
know?
sure. Long before. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so as the announcer for the Cubs, what has been your most memorable moment so far?
Oof. Okay. I have a few memorable moments, and I can't really pick one, so I'm just gonna
Okay,
have to.
yeah, share them all.
So obviously, the first one, you can't forget the first time, right? So I think that
Absolutely.
obviously May 17th, my first game, it was just perfect. Cubs won. Also, I think throughout my first season, I was very lucky because that was kind of the last stretch with Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant. So obviously, the core of the 2016 championship team, being able to announce those guys and players that I looked up to and as a Cubs fan and for all that they've done to bring us a championship and the drought was really cool. So being able to announce them was great. And then afterwards, when Christopher Morel got called up, his first game, very first at bat was a home run. So, very special moment. I was the first time I felt Wrigley Field shake.
Oh,
Uh, they
wow.
there's stories of, the press box and the upper deck shaking. Uh, but I never really got to experience that until when he like hit his very first home run and his very first at bat. It was a very electrifying moment and the whole crowd knew it and like you can feel the box shake a little bit, which was really cool. We've had that a couple more times. So the Nelson Velasquez, was it Nelson Velasquez? I think it was either Nelson Velasquez or Alexander Canario hit a grand slam, and
Okay.
that was very electrifying. And then Christopher Morel again last year against the White Sox in the Crosstown hit a walk-off home run, and that was also electrifying. So those were cool moments too. But in my time with the Cubs, I also got to do other experiences which were really cool. A little less from the announcer role, but I had a road trip series in 2022, and our Cubs production team had me go on the road, and that was all thanks to National Car Rental. So we went to Milwaukee, St. Louis, White Sox for Crosstown, and then Field of Dreams out in
Mm.
Dyersville, Iowa. So those were all very cool. In Milwaukee, I got to go down the slide uh, in my behind the scene experience. Where else? And I think just Field of Dreams was cool because it was Field of Dreams. So based on the movie Field of Dreams, they had the baseball field out there, saw the cornfields and all that stuff. So being a part of that was really cool as well too. Um, Last year also not in a working capacity, but London series, Cubs Cardinals out in
Mm.
London. So being out there to see it was pretty cool as well too. So that's the long list of cool opportunities that I've
Yeah.
had so far.
Yeah, those are definitely memorable moments. And speaking of the opportunities, I was going to ask what other ones had just opened up for you. So, like you were just saying, it took you to London. It obviously took you on like a road trip. So, outside of this, or those that you explained, is there any other opportunities that opened you up to with meeting people or just connecting with different things? What else has it done for you?
Yeah, so the Cubs job opened up a few more opportunities afterwards. So I think a big thing that helped was uh like I stated earlier when I got the job, I was the youngest at 21 and then
Mm-hmm.
first African American for the Cubs. So because of that. the National Baseball Hall of Fame reached out at the end of my first season and put my microphone in the Hall of Fame. So part of me is in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's
So
sick.
yeah,
That is so cool.
so it's crazy. Like most players play years trying to get to the Hall of Fame, and in my very first year as announcer, they put a part of me in there. So really, really cool and very lucky to be in kind of like the baseball holy grail very early.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And I've been there a couple times since, so I've seen it on display. I actually was there about a month ago. We had a they opened a new exhibit honoring Black baseball and the Negro Leagues. And so there was kind of like a Negro League All-Star game out there with former
Yeah.
African American baseball players. So CC Sabathia, Curtis Granderson, Ken Griffey Jr., just to name a few. So it was cool to be a part of that as well too. In Chicago, I got to someone that was a Cubs fan that worked with the Red Stars brought me on to be one of the Red Stars announcers, which is the NWSL women's soccer. So I did that for a couple seasons, and then due to scheduling conflict and all that, didn't
Mm.
really have time to keep up with it. But I was very fortunate to co-PA the game at Wrigley this past Saturday. So that was cool because that was a history making match as well. The first pro women's soccer game at Wrigley Field. And then we also broke the league attendance record with 35,000. So
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome.
that was fun to be a part of. So I did Red Stars for a couple seasons, and then I'm also the backup for the Chicago Fire. So I did one game with them in relief. So hopefully I get more in the future. But those opportunities definitely helped. And um, as you mentioned, I'm also stage manager with the Bulls. That one came from UIC as well too. So um, I was when I was at UIC, I wasn't able to do the men's games because they had a guy.
Okay.
So to fill my time, I learned production and stage management doing
Mm.
UIC men's basketball games. And it just so happens that the two people that uh, used to work there now work at the Bulls. And when they needed some help with some stage managing and needed production people to come in, those two vouched for me to come in, and I was very fortunate to keep my skills there on the big stage with the Chicago Bulls. So I what this was my second season. We just finished up with the Bulls there, so
Okay.
that was another cool opportunity. So obviously with being a stage manager, you get to know all the people on the teams and stuff like that in Bulls Entertainment. So that's how I know Adam
Mm.
and everyone on The Incredible. So
Good stuff. Yeah. I love when one thing leads to another, and you never know. The possibilities are endless. And I think that's
exactly.
amazing. I definitely need to go see your mic at the Hall of Fame because that's so cool. And I'm gonna fangirl when I see it because it's awesome. Okay. So I'm wondering, so like I kind of stated, I was a cheerleader. So to prepare for like competitions or even game days, superstition is like a very huge thing for cheerleaders. So I was wondering if there's anything you do to prepare for a game, if you have any specific routines or practices you follow, and also if you have any superstitions of things you like have to do before a game starts.
For sure. So baseball is a very superstitious sport. So
Okay.
uh we definitely, once we do things that we know work, we try to stick with that. And if
Uh-huh.
it doesn't work, then we try to change it up in some way. So uh Wrigley, gates open about 90 minutes before first pitch. I don't really start talking until about 40 minutes, so I have a pretty good amount of time to kind of do whatever. So I like to walk around the ballpark, and that's one of the things that I feel like I need to do is walk around because I've been able to build some connections with the staff there and a couple of the guys. Uh, we have a handshake that we do before every
Okay.
game.
Yep.
So if
Yep.
we don't put the handshake in before the game, then we know that it's not going to be a good game.
Yep.
So I definitely have to do that. And then in terms of like food and stuff, like I try to take good care of myself, obviously all year round, but more specifically during the baseball season.
For
Haven't missed
sure.
a Cubs game, knock on wood. So, obviously want to keep it that way. So I definitely don't want to find myself violently ill any point during the season. So,
Right.
definitely eating a much more specific set of foods and also avoiding some specific stuff, especially on game day that might, mess up my speaking abilities or just, my voice in general. Water is my best friend, so just
Mm-hmm.
keep handy with me on game days and trying to go through the flow as I normally do. But yeah, that's what I try to do. Nothing else, nothing really too crazy, just kind of like, ballpark norms and then also in terms of, you know, routine, just, trying to keep up with the same stuff that I know works.
Yeah. I think it's so funny that you mentioned that you do handshakes because like in cheer, people do the same thing. Like they walk on the mat and they do a handshake real quick before the routine. So it's so funny how that is kind of like the same thing.
Yeah,
And I
for
also love that you, even outside of just like a routine or a little like superstition you might have, you're also talking about, your voice is everything for this
yeah,
job, right? So
literally.
you do what you need to take care of not only your voice but your body, like so that you're mentally there, physically there. So kudos to you for also being on top of your game in those ways too.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's see. Next question. Do you have a favorite game or series that you've announced and what made it special?
This one always has to go back to the first game just because it's the
Absolutely.
so it felt special because I felt like it was a flawless day. I mean,
Oh,
everything
that's
lit
awesome.
yeah, everything leading up to the ballpark. Obviously, they made the announcement that day, so everyone I knew about it. So all the messages coming in were really
Oh,
cool. I started doing media interviews with news outlets that day. So the Cubs won. My family, the right people were in a ballpark. So it was just a very magical moment. So that just will always probably be the best one.
yeah, I love that. And I meant to ask earlier, but the booth that they had you come in and do kind of like the interview or the kind of like tryout or trial
Hmm.
script.
The
Is
live
that
audition,
yes, is that the same booth that you're still in today?
same group. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the PA booth. So that's kind of where the PA always has been. So when I went up to the live audition, I was in there, and then when I got hired, and to this day, I'm still in there. So
I
yeah,
love that.
that's
Right at home.
where the magic happens.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So next question that I have, and this is specifically during a game. How do you handle high stakes or highly emotional moments during a game?
Yeah, so I've worked a lot of sports games over the years, so kind of knowing what press box etiquette is and
Okay.
learning how to control yourself in that sense. So it's very very hard as someone who's a huge fan of the ball club you work for to
Yeah.
not react in a certain way. So, upholding press box etiquette and, in certain situations, it's okay. Like, Obviously I'm in front of a microphone, so
Yeah,
you know, keeping your comments to yourself is always the best thing, just in case, God forbid, the mic is still on.
yeah,
Uh, Blurt out a hot mic situation that doesn't go so well, so definitely want to avoid anything like that. And then obviously not booing in certain situations, and holding the utmost respect for the ball club and professionalism. I think obviously there's times where, I think everyone reacts in certain situations as a fan, where all of us in that room kind of gets a little bit giddy when, like, walk-off home runs, like bottom of the ninth, you're down by one, guy hits a home run, you win the game by one. Everyone, I think, in that moment, has naturally just kind of has to let go.
for sure.
And
Yeah.
you know, you get right back into it though, but I mean the game's over, so it's like we're done here, so it works out. But yeah, just always remembering professionalism and in my role, press box etiquette, and upholding that, and just kind of keeping that here. So
Yeah. And it's so funny. So I'm thinking about like, I'm from New Jersey, so close to Philadelphia, and I have a lot of Philly uh sports fans in my family and my friends, like everyone. So I see how they react to, Philly sports, and I can just imagine one of them in a booth, how that would go. So yeah, keeping your composure and all of that. I'm sure, especially when you're like a diehard fan for
oh
these
yeah,
teams, yeah, you want to, put all of your emotion out there, but like you said, you have to, lock in and
for sure. And it's
save
hard
it.
because we're humans at the end of the day, so it's
Right.
very hard not to be able to react. But I think there's a special skill when being able to hold on to your emotions, and when you're in the setting, because you know what you're doing is work, it's professional. So
Yeah.
understanding that this is you have to kind of somewhat detach yourself in a sense,
Yeah.
um, and uphold that professionalism. Um, that's why being able to, start into the career a little bit early, and, during my teen years, and being able to learn all of that helped out a lot for sure.
Oh yeah, I bet especially as a teen, that was probably super beneficial because you kind of were just like already thrown into it even years before you were
Sure.
professionally into it. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna ask. So looking back on your career so far, is there anything you would have done differently?
Ooh, that's a great question. Great question. Would I?
I
Oh
feel like it's
man,
so hard because any decision could, lead down a different route and you just like never know.
exactly. So I would probably say no, because I think the way everything worked out was how it was supposed to. But at the
Yep.
same, like, it would be hard to think if any other different way would have gotten a better or worse outcome. So it's definitely, hard to say, because, you know, it's like, you sometimes think like, oh, what if I got the Sky gig, or what if I got the Bears gig or something like that? How would that
Hmm.
have impacted, the Cubs gig? And then, like, what would have happened there versus what would happen
Yeah.
here? But I try not to think about that stuff. I very much like how everything has played out. So there's
Yeah.
nothing for me to complain or ponder on that thought. So I just kind of let life be life, and push through it. Let just kind of live it how it is so right now. So
Yeah. And I love that. And I think where you are, I mean, you've literally made history in the
yeah,
position that you're in. And obviously, this is a dream that so many people would, could only wish for. So I think you
sure,
definitely, this path led you to exactly where you needed to be.
exactly.
Okay. So let's see. Where do you see the future of sports announcing heading?
I think it'll stay the same. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't think much will change. I feel like in a sense, maybe some some aspect of it may become a little bit AI now that AI is kind of growing in a sense, but
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't think that'll happen at the pro level, just because I feel like you need to have a sense of control, especially with announcing like, my role might be a little bit different because in a sense, like maybe you can have, you know, AI read scripts in
Hmm.
a normal fashion and but I think with radio and television you just can't beat the human experience with that because there's
Absolutely.
a lot of preparation behind it, a lot of emotion behind it as well too, so you kind of need humans behind the microphones in those situations to kind of connect with the audience, with the human listener. So, someone that's gonna understand the emotion behind a strikeout or a home run or someone's very first game or someone's very last game, that those are
Yeah.
all emotional scenarios that I don't think AI or tech or anything can replicate. So I think in terms of at least the pros, that's not going to change. Hopefully it doesn't change into that where
Yeah.
at any level, hopefully it stays humans, but I think in some way you need to kind of keep an eye open for what AI is intending to step into and change. They're talking about the robo umps in the minor league, so I feel like
Mm.
in terms of accuracy, that's great. Obviously, as human, there's a lot
Yeah.
of humor as umpires, but I don't want to imagine baseball without human umps either. So
Yeah.
you have to kind of keep an open mind to the possibilities of change in the future. But I like my gig here at Wrigley, so I don't want I don't want that to change. So for
Yeah.
sure. Hopefully it doesn't advance too far.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like, you know, the game could change, the rules can change, stadiums can change, but like we were kind of saying earlier, the voice of the stadiums or like just speakers at and announcers within sports is so traditional and so classical. It goes back, again to the 1900s, like you were saying, and just like keeping that tradition alive. So I would also hate to see it die out. So AI could never replace Jeremiah Paprocki.
Yeah,
um,
forget it.
yeah. Okay. So, what advice would you give to someone aspiring to become a sports announcer?
For sure. For someone that's trying to aspire to be a sports announcer, I think you just have to kind of find ways to get into it. It's a very competitive field with very limited opportunities. So, in order to stand out, you have to kind of build that resume up that's going to help you stand out. So, definitely uh, be comfortable with being out there and social.
Hmm.
Um, Not saying that you have to be an extrovert, but this is very much a position that mm, you have to be comfortable with talking and being able to talk to a lot of people, whether that's 5 people, 100, 1,000, 10,000, forty
Yeah.
thousand.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the number is, you have to be comfortable talking with people in front of people no matter what. So definitely be comfortable. And then obviously, in order to get opportunities, you have to be comfortable talking to people that are going to help you be in those opportunities. So seize an opportunity like I did. I went to the office when I figured out that there was a opportunity for me to start announcing. And then, being able to start be the school announcer for sports games. That was me taking initiative there. So being able to find ways to sneak yourself into situations, I think is
Mm-hmm.
gonna help. Sure. But one for everyone, no matter what position or career they're trying to do, is just stick with it. I think the
Yeah.
best is if you're really passionate about it, you just have to keep going no matter how long it takes, right? So, like I said, nothing's ever linear and easy. There's always going to be ups and downs, no matter what you do in life. So,
Yeah.
even if, I've been very fortunate to start early, and get the position I want at an early age. But if we really look at the time from my sophomore year in high school to when I got the Cubs job, that was 2014 to 2021. So that was still pretty good amount of time between the two. So
Yeah.
it's gonna take some time. You got to be patient. Always, always be able to practice your craft no matter where you are. Hopefully, you can keep, studying what you're doing and also getting that infield practice. And, you know, hope for the best. And I'm sure at some point you all will be able to get to where you want to be. So I think in life, one thing that is for sure is that everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to. So
Yep.
uh, definitely continue to push through, persevere, and you'll get there one day for sure.
Absolutely. I think that was a perfect answer from just going back to your timeline of, from 2014 to 2021 to taking chances. And I think a huge thing too that you mentioned was initiating. You saw that opportunity open, so you went and got it, right? Nothing's
Yeah,
going to fall in your lap. You have to go out and get it. So
sure.
I think your advice was spot on. And so now, just before we wrap things up, I have one other question that is also going to tie into your late nights in Chicago show that I wanted to touch on. So you are the CEO, executive producer, and host. So with that being said, what are your future aspirations as an announcer and also as a talk show host?
For sure. I'm glad you brought that up. That's my newest project that I'm working on right now. So Late Nights in Chicago with yours truly, Jeremiah Paprocki, is a late night talk show, very much similar to Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon,
Mm-hmm.
those types of late night hosts. Uh, I've always kind of been a fan, similarly to sports, is I've also been a fan of late night entertainment. So I've grown up watching Conan O'Brien, David
Mm-hmm.
Letterman. Those are kind of the first people that kind of set that off. I would watch those shows usually on like Friday night when I didn't have to worry about school the next day and my mom was watching it on TV. And always found that it was very cool that someone got to interview very famous people on a nightly
Oh
basis.
yeah.
And it was kind of just something that was there as well too. It never really kind of took off until 2019. I For spring break, I took a trip to LA. I put in for Jimmy Kimmel Live tickets. I got them. And so I was a part of the taping experience. But when you're in a taping experience, you see everything. You see
Right.
and warming up. You see the warm-up comics. You see the director, producer, cameraman, everything kind of come together. And then when Jimmy Kimmel comes out, it's like you're kind of seeing something like you shouldn't be seeing, right? Like you're
Right.
seeing it on a TV screen and you get to see the whole picture all in motion. So it was very, very kind of what do they say? An awakening moment for me in a sense,
Yeah,
where
like surreal.
yeah, it was so surreal. And this was before I got the Cubs gig, so trying to keep my options open in terms of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so um late nights was one of those things. And so I was trying to figure out a way how to kind of do it then. And so I started one. I was at UIC at the time, so I started a UIC talk show, a college one. So It was called Late Night Flame, and a buddy of mine that does music, Caleb, I was able to get him on board, and we kind of worked together with the digital services team and student activity board at UIC, and we were able to make a couple episodes possible at UIC. So I got to work on my hosting skills. We got to shine the light on some students,
Yeah.
things on campus. We did 3 episodes. That one got cut short because of COVID as well too. So
Hmm.
that kind of came to an end. But I knew that that was something that I didn't want to kind of put a pin in yet. So once I got the Cubs job and a couple of years later to last year, we've been trying to find ways to bring it back in a way. And we were like, well, we got to do it on a bigger scale now. And so uh, this time we've started working with a bigger network of people. So I brought Caleb back. He's also an executive with me on the project. We got a logistics teams, a band, what else? Camera crew, all that. So we have a whole network of people that are working on this project, and we were very fortunate to film 1 episode in March. So March 24th, we taped our pilot episode. So we had Sherman Dillard Thomas and Matt Muse as our guests. And it was such a amazing moment to kind of see that idea also come to fruition as well too. Um,
Yeah,
get to kind of live out my late night host dreams as well too.
for
Um,
sure.
it's a new business. It's growing. It's new in Chicago. Chicago has never had a late night talk show. So we're currently in the process of finding ways to make this a mainstay in the city. So
Yeah.
we've business mode since the end of episode 1 and pitching it to sponsors and people
Hmm.
to help carry uh, the brand into some more episodes. So hopefully all of that stuff can work out at the end and we can tape more episodes on a consistent basis and create a new experience for late night entertainment in Chicago. And then it'd be really cool from my end to, seize the opportunity in that role and, hopefully, Cubs baseball in the summer, late nights in Chicago in the winter.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great plan to obviously take that forward and run with it. But yeah, that's really exciting. And like I said, I still have that flyer. So it's so funny that like it's like so full circle now because I remember getting the flyer and learning about it and then meeting you. So it's just
Yep.
really neat. I love seeing people's dreams come to life. And obviously it's why I have guests on this podcast because I just want to share other people's stories, be motivational. Um, and yeah, I think you bring that light and energy and that positivity that this world needs. So thank you again for coming on my episode and sharing your story and how you got to where you are today with the Cubs. I do want to say congratulations. You've been voicing or on a mic for 10 years now and for becoming the youngest announcer of Wrigley Field and also for being the first African American announcer. So congratulations to all of your accomplishments and thank you so much again for coming on. Don't wait till Monday podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the platform to share my story, and it was a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Of course, and thank you to everyone listening, and I will see you in the next episode.